Hello, this is Katie from Crafting Ruby Dreams, and welcome to my channel. It has been a bit of a while, hence the title of this live stream, which is life updates, amongst other things. So ADHD is riding me hard today with the time blindness. I was like, all the notes, all the things, all of that. I'm like, oh, it's after 2. So thank you so much for joining me. I've got the water here, because I am in need of it. So yeah, life updates. I did a whole list of stuff so that I wouldn't forget anything that I absolutely wanted to say today. But oh man, this it's been 2 months, maybe not quite 2 months, but close to 2 months, 3 months. I forget. I meant to look this up earlier. It's been a while. So the reason it has been a while was because there has been a lot of general life stress that has been going on. There were some day job things that could have been easier, but at the same time, it's kind of like day job bureaucracy. I finally was able to close the books on a number of them, but it was getting through them, frankly. I had travel that I went on, and during that particular trip, everything that could have gone wrong, for the most part, went wrong. There were some things that were very good about it. I am glad that I was able to go. I was able to see a friend who happened to live in that city and spend some time with her. But I ended the trip with a broken tooth. So that then led into some other stressful times, while at the same time trying to close out that work trip administratively took a little while. And then dealing with the broken tooth that we initially tried to fix with a root canal. That failed. And then I was told that I would have to have it extracted and then have an implant done. So I have spent the last, 6 weeks dealing with the dental issues on top of everything. I'm in a good healing place. So I'm just going to let the healing process continue. If any of you are not familiar with when you have to have a tooth extracted, and depending on the placement of the tooth, sometimes, especially if it's the very, very back molars, they just take it out. They don't worry about it. But if it's anywhere besides those extreme back molars, or let alone your wisdom teeth, they generally suggest, if you want to, getting an implant. It's not required by any means. It's up to you, because it's expensive. It is freaking expensive. So that money stress was in addition to just the dental stress, which I don't have dental anxiety, very thankfully. But the idea of having to go through an extraction and potential implant on top of the cost of all of that was it was a lot to work through. But yeah, so you have the option of, if you want to and can afford to, getting an implant done. But the thing is that you have to wait 4 months after the extraction, because you have to let the bone itself heal. And once it's healed, then you can go ahead and have the implant done at any point after that. So right now, my thought is to wait until next year, when I have a fresh, flexible spending account money going in there. I've spent almost all of my FSA money for the year already, and it's just June, so that's a fun time. But yeah, so the day job stress, the broken tooth, and actually right around the time that I was initially dealing with the day job stress, I was like, okay, health-wise, I need to make some better choices. I need to do more movement. That hasn't really changed. I've been getting a lot more movement just because of like going to various appointments and everything. But in general, I'm not doing what I really need to do day to day, but that is on the list. The other aspect, though, is making better food choices for myself. I want to be very careful in how I go about talking about food, because I realize food is a trigger for a lot of people. I've had people in my life with ED, and I don't want to do anything that causes uncomfortability with that. So I'm just basically going to leave it with, I decided that I need to incorporate more vegetables into my food choices. And I also needed a way to reduce the amount of decisions I have to make to both help with the ADHD and just general life stress, which I have a lot of decisions I have to make on my own day to day. And so this helps me do that. Oh, Robin, I just saw this. That's exactly what happened to me in 2021. Waited until 2022 to get the implant and had the extraction in January 2021. Yes. Once I realized I could actually wait until 2024 to get the implant and the cost of that, I'm like, oh, stress level went down. So this is the thing, is figuring out the ways for the stress level to go down. And that also feeds into all the decisions. So I decided, a number of friends had been talking about factor meals, which are pre-made meals. It's not even just here's all the ingredients for these meals and the recipes on how to make them. It's meals are all served. They are not meals intended for diet reduction or weight reduction, such as like Jenny Craig or Nutrisystem or anything like that. They are full meals. And Lima, thank you so much. Yes, I'm so happy to be back and like have the bandwidth to be back. So we'll see how long this lasts, but I did want to do the check-in because it has been a while. So Factor, this is what it looks like. And this was this is my lunch for today. And it was black pepper and sage pork chop with smoked cheddar, Brussels sprouts, and creamy broccoli. So it's microwavable to reheat it. Just takes a couple of minutes. Or you could like dump it out of the packaging and reheat it in a conventional, not convection. They make a point to say don't do convection. But it was a full-size pork chop. It was like about like that big. And the smoked cheddar Brussels sprouts, those were excellent. Creamy broccoli was also good. I generally have liked broccoli in the past. It's a vegetable that I do willingly eat. I have started to realize that it's, for some reason, is sometimes triggering my gag reflex. So I'm not going to, it's been fine, but it's like, I'm just recognizing I'm having some kind of physical reaction to it. So I need to investigate that further to make sure I'm not allergic to it or anything. But having these are generally my lunches. So having a full meal for lunch is helpful. I will say with the tooth situation, it's been interesting because when I initially had the extraction done, I had to be very careful with it. And it's easier for me to just keep my chewing on one side. So, this is the other reason why I want to be very careful about what I say, is because I've been very lucky. I've never had an ED, but the amount of thought that I put into eating while initially healing from the procedure was not fun. It was not something I enjoyed. And I could see how, if I had a history, could easily fall back into unhealthy behaviors. So I just want to acknowledge the confluence of those things. But yeah, so I have enjoyed Factor. I definitely, meal-wise, taste-wise, selection-wise, I give it 2 thumbs up if you're at all interested in it. I don't have a link or anything, but if it's something that's on your radar, I can recommend it as something to definitely try out, see if it fits with your lifestyle and everything. It's not inexpensive. I will absolutely say that, but for me, it's worth the minimization of my decision, of the amount of decisions that I have to make on a regular basis. So that it's been useful for me for that. So I recommend it. Yeah. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about, MäksēLife, since a lot of you know that I am affiliate for them, they just released a new product and I was able to order ahead of time. Let me actually get my hands on it. There we go. So they have rainbow notebook sets. So there's 8 notebooks in each pack, and I was able to get both versions. The first version is the dot grid notebook, and for the first time, they're offering lined notebooks. The reason I'm so excited about these, like as soon as they announced them to the affiliates, my initial thought was creating portable vision boards and journaling about the work that I'm doing to achieve, or whatever, like if I'm running into blocks on achieving. So that was the first thing I thought of when I saw that these were available. So the goals for each area of life, because these are color coordinated to the areas of life in addition to basically being the rainbow. But the other thing that I really, really love and appreciate is that for June, which is Pride Month, they are donating $10 of every set. So one set each, they are donating to the Trevor Project. So for those of you who don't know the Trevor Project, it is an organization that was started by the family of a young man who was unalived due to a hate crime against his sexuality. And so the organization works with young people in the LGBTQIA plus community and provides them resources that they need. And so, yeah, $10 for every set in the month of June. I highly recommend it. And honestly, I think each notebook is nice. It's A5 size, sewn binding, so it's really cool. On the front is in silver dot grid notebook. On the back is the MäksēLife logo. This is the dot grid, so you can see, hopefully. And in the back, there is a little pocket right there. So if you want to put stickers or something in there. But yeah, so it's definitely a good thing in my opinion. But I just want to make that aware. The link I'm going to toss in to the description is not actually going to be my affiliate link. It's just going to be a straight link to the product. But if you are interested and you want to support the Trevor Project, besides giving directly to the Trevor Project, please also consider doing that. You can purchase these notebooks. So I wanted to give that call out because they just released on today's Saturday, Thursday, June 1st. So highly recommend. Next thing, for those of you who are interested in HB90, the Q3 Bootcamp opens for registration tomorrow at, I don't know what time, but it opens tomorrow. So June 4th. And then the Bootcamp itself will run the week of June 18th. So for those of you who may not be familiar with it, but I'm betting all of you who are watching live have heard me talk about it many times, and thank you for listening to me again. It is a mostly asynchronous class where you watch videos day to day. Sarah releases for the new course, releases the videos daily, and you have one live session, which is basically what she calls the kickoff call. It's basically a pump you up inspirational message, hour-long live chat with her. Either you can watch it through the Facebook group link for your cohort, or you can watch it on YouTube. She provides links to both. She does have a Facebook group. Well, two. She has a Facebook group for the cohort as you're going through the class initially. And then she has an alumni Facebook group that you can be a part of. You don't have to be on Facebook to participate in the class. The class platform itself is not on Facebook. But if you want community support, that is available. But if you don't have Facebook and want community support, she also has space on her Discord group that you can also participate in. So those are the two community support options available to you. But it's 7 days, so runs Sunday to Saturday, like I said, starting on the 18th, and just slowly walks you through the process of working with HB90. So if you can absolutely use the planner without taking the boot camp. I know some people who have done that. They started out with just the planner and then decided to take the boot camp, and they just found it a little bit more understandable. And hearing the way people make it their own. Like there was somebody in the Facebook group, because that's where I participate in the community, who asked I think it was earlier this week, asked if anybody didn't use the time blocking aspect. And I don't. I should say that I don't stick to the time blocking aspect. I will sometimes like go through like as the start of the quarter. I didn't phrase that how I wanted to phrase that. At the start of the quarter, when I'm building what my plan is, I will take a look and see how much time I actually likely have available to work on everything. So am I appropriately estimating how much time how many projects I can actually take on during the course of the quarter? And that's still squiffy, let's say, because ADHD, time blindness. I am not as bad with time blindness as some people who have ADHD, but I do have, I will get lost in working on a project and just totally lose track of time. That's where it happens more frequently with me. But I do have a decent sense of time when I'm not in a hyper-focus mode. But I also have trouble estimating how much time something is going to take me because of the hyper-focus mode and getting lost in a task and then getting distracted by, this is another thing, like something else. So as an example, as I was getting ready for this, I have my notes on the back of this, but on the front of this page is another note about, these are people who I have to contact with regards to the book that just released yesterday that I meant to contact like 3 weeks ago. One of whom, number one on this list, I hadn't contacted yet. And so my brain was like, well, let's contact her now. And that's what I did. So that's where my task estimation, time blindness isn't actually helpful for HB90. But that doesn't mean the process in the whole system doesn't work for me. I find ways to make it work for me. But there are always people for whom it's just not going to work, and that's fine. Just I'm not going to say you have to try it if you already know this is not my thing at all, because I don't want you to waste time. Time is a very valuable asset in everybody's life, because this is the life that we are leading. And if you know something isn't going to work for you at this point in time, just go on to something else. But if it's something that interests you and you have ADHD, just know that there are a number of us in the community who do have ADHD and who use it successfully in the ways that work best for us. I'm just going to put that out there. So, like when it comes to estimating tasks, I almost said taxes. That's a whole other thing. But when it comes to estimating tasks, other than writing sprints, I don't have a great handle on how much time something is going to take me. So I just write down the task itself. That's what works best for me, is that I just need to do this task. So getting back to the original thing of this person asked a question with regards to who actually does use the task blocks, or does anybody not use the task blocks? That's more accurate to what the person asked. I was one of the people who said, it's like, I don't. I have a full-time job. I have ADHD, and I am SHIT at estimating time when it comes to how much time it's going to take me to do something. So it's like I use it as an overall general planning tool at the start of the quarter. But once the quarter starts and we're getting into actually doing the work, I just throw them out. I do not adhere to that at all. I do stuff when I'm on break at work on my personal computers. I do as things hit me. Like, I would like to take full days off from writing and other things and just give myself the mental rest. But at the same time, I kind of will take my mental rest when I need it. So there are times that I will just shift work to days. I'm like, well, no, I'm actually interested in doing the work now. So let's go ahead and do the work now. That is something that is very hard when you have ADHD with executive dysfunction stuff, is if you're actually interested in doing something, maybe that's just when you need to do it. Like a few weeks ago, I was interested in decluttering, which almost never interests me. So I spent a whole weekend decluttering my, mainly my living space, the living room space, I should say. Because previously you would see stuff stacked up here, because everything behind me was completely full of stuff. I couldn't sit on the couch behind me. Now I can, because I just took the time to clear out a lot of stuff that needed to be done. So when it comes to doing things like for HB90 and other life stuff, when I'm actually interested in it, I try to run with it. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If you have executive dysfunction disorder or whatever it is. So, yes, preach on leaning into the spells of interest with neurodivergence and executive dysfunction. Yes, because it's hard. And if you don't have it, like I really don't have an interest in cleaning generally. So I was interested and I'm like, okay, let's run with this. So I felt very good when I did that. And so I think the person who asked the question, the group, like I said, having access to that community support for HB90, I think is a very valuable asset to doing the boot camp in the first place. So like I said, Facebook, if you don't like Facebook, there's also the Discord. So those are some things that I found useful with HB90. And yeah, we'll see. I actually Q2 and for HB90 for me ended up, I'm not going to say failing, but I didn't fully plan out the quarter like I had been the quarters previously. And I just rolled with it. It was just, with the mental space I was in after everything that happened Q1, namely the loss of a number of people in my life, and realizing I needed a little bit of rest, as well as gearing up to prepare for the release of the book. I was like, okay, there's stuff that I know I need to do, but I'm not going to go out and do a whole plan. It's like I've got various notes and stuff. I did some, I did what did I do? Post-it notes, mainly admin, for the admin portion that of the goal that I've typically had for my number 3 goal when doing HB90, but I didn't do the full system because I just knew I wasn't in the full place for it. But I got everything done. I was able to get the book launched. I am really happy with that, which I'm going to go into in a little bit. But yeah, so it wasn't the most planned or organized Q2 for me with HB90, even though we're just starting the 3rd month of Q2. But I took the step back intentionally, and I am planning on getting back into the swing of things with quarter 3, mainly because I need to get back to writing book 2. I'm excited about writing book 2. I've actually already started writing book 2. But I need to like get back deep into it and at least get the first draft done. So I'm going to focus on that. But yeah, so that's the update for HB90 with where I've been at. That's why there hasn't been that much content from me, even on Instagram, about HB90 this quarter, is because I just didn't really have anything to share. It was just, there wasn't much there. So, all right. So the book news, which if any of you see or saw the thumbnail, you'll see a little question mark book icon. And that was intentional because I didn't want to reveal necessarily on this channel prior to publication, but I did publish a book yesterday. So I know I've been talking about it fairly frequently on this channel. So I did want to share with everybody that I did finally publish book 1 of the series that I'm launching a new pen name with. So the new pen name is Katie Lillig, Lillig. It is a family name, which is why I went with it. I didn't just pull it out of thin air. I like going through the family trees to figure out potential pen names. But the book 1 is Not So Runaway Bride. And it released in ebook yesterday, and it's part of the Kindle Unlimited program. So it is only available as an ebook on Amazon right now. And I spent part of yesterday working on getting the paperback up for sale through the various channels that I'm making it available. So it is currently available on Amazon. I am still waiting for it to finish processing through the other channel, which will make it available for ordering through your favorite local bookstore and bookshop.org. I'm not sure when that will be available. Like I said, put it up yesterday, so it may take them until into next week to get the approval steps figured out. So I'm really, really excited. But yeah, I found out this morning that Amazon had finished processing overnight. So yeah, it's a whole thing. Unfortunately, right now, the formats are not linked on Amazon, at least last I checked. But I will put up direct links to both on Amazon, and when it becomes available on Bookshop, I will put it up on Bookshop too. I'm really, really pleased with the reactions that I've been getting so far. I'm fully expecting at some point to get a 1-star. The reviews right now so far have been 4 and 5 stars. I have, other than the first couple of reviews, I haven't looked at the actual text of the reviews. I just realized I'm like, you know what? I'm just not in a headspace with trying to write book 2, that I should be reading these. So I, for the most part, am skipping reading the reviews because sorry, my nose is, let me actually use a tissue. There we go. For any of you who are on BookTok, if you are and just don't spend a lot of time on there or just not on BookTok, there is an author who made a very not good choice, in my opinion, to put on blast a reviewer who gave her a 4-star rating and called her the B word for saying, the end was a bit predictable. 4 stars, and thought the end was a bit predictable. But yeah, it is, Halima has seen this, yes. Because this author was not happy that up until this particular review, she had all 5 stars. At the time I saw this, I happened to catch that she had 8 reviews. At that point in time, I also had 8 reviews on Goodreads. I have a very different reaction. I had already stopped reading the actual reviews, as I said, at that point in time, but I did look at the stars. Like, the number of stars doesn't bother me at all. That doesn't get into my head. It's reading the reviews that would get into my head. And I have a super thick skin. I read all of my reviews under my previous pen name. And I also am a librarian who reads reviews as part of the day job work. So I read reviews all the dang time. I am not a stranger to reading reviews and critically reading reviews. And so I can bring that mindset to reading my own reviews. I made the, like I said, considered choice to not read my own reviews this time beyond the first couple that I saw, and I intentionally chose to read. The thing is, even positive, supportive reviews can get in your head. And with everything that's gone on with me this year so far, I don't need anything else getting into my head, which is why I made, like I said, I made the choice not to. This author should have made a similar choice. I just had to talk about that because I was just, this woman has decided to blow up her potential author career to the point that, for those of you who haven't seen it, her publisher was apparently a what is typically known as a vanity publisher, which generally means that you pay them as the author to publish your work. That publisher dropped her and severed professional ties with her. She was paying them, and they chose to cut ties with her. So that's some next level behavior and happenings. But yeah, I highly recommend that if you are an author watching this, for whatever reason, you might want to stay out of reading your own reviews, whether for protecting your peace and maybe protecting your career. I'm still agog at how badly this is spinning out by the author's own choice to continue doing what she's doing. Anyway, I personally am very happy with the response, getting, again, ADHD distraction, getting back on track. The review route, I'm sorry. It's just, but I've looked at the star ratings. Like I said, I've limited myself to that. And I'm like, purposely, it's like, if I'm looking at the product page and it's like, oh, here's the review section, block, not looking. People have shared with me that they have left reviews. I've thanked them directly, and I thank them for not sending the review to me directly. It means so much to me that so many people are finding the book, are enjoying the book, and are excited for me. Even if they're not reading the book, that means the world to me. So the support has been really, really fabulous. Those of you who have been paying attention, again, you don't have to, but if you've caught what I've been doing with the pen name, thank you so much for the support you've provided. I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, I'm so glad that this is finally out in the world, and it almost feels a bit surreal at this point, frankly, because when I started this channel 3 years ago, that was the other thing I wanted to make sure I did something this month. I'm hoping maybe to do another live stream later this month. We'll see, because my parents are coming into town and just a lot of stuff going on later in the month. But this month is my 3rd anniversary here on YouTube. And when I started, I It was just basically an initial tester video. And then I didn't do anything for 2 months before I officially launched in August. But it was a tester video just to see if I could do it. And I was in a place where I needed some creativity. You know what, Halima, this is a great question, and I will come back to it because I did want to talk about this too. So thank you for asking, because I probably would have forgotten to talk about it. So I will get back to this question. But I needed creative space to reset that wasn't writing and wasn't involved in writing. And doing this YouTube channel and growing it, and then participating in the Greater Planner community. I know I've said this before on this channel. I forget where, but I know I've said it before. But it was creative space that I needed to be creative, to continue to be creative, but give me the space I needed to heal and do whatever I needed to do to come back to writing, which I was able to do over the course of the next couple of years. So actually publishing again feels a bit surreal, because in the depths of things, I don't know that I seriously question whether I'd be able to do it again. I was wondering if I had lost the creative energy and ability to even write, let alone the interest in publishing. So I was able to reconnect with the joy of writing. I was able to reconnect with the joy of publishing, for as much as publishing can be very tedious and hard. It's something, I like being an entrepreneur. I like thinking about the business of writing. It brings me as much joy and excitement as actually writing does, which I know is not the case for every author. Which is why I frequently say, if you just want to write and you don't want to deal with the business of publishing it all, please consider just putting your work up on Wattpad if you feel that you actually do need to put your work out in the world. Put it up for free somewhere. So if you don't want to deal with the business of publishing, make choices where you don't have to deal with the business of publishing. Otherwise, please accept somehow, find a way that you need to deal with the business of publishing. I find joy in it. I know not everybody does, but yeah. So getting back to this question from Halima, if you don't mind me asking, how has this launch gone in terms of your expectations? I will say that I didn't put Not So Runaway Bride up for pre-order until mid-May. I made a very specific decision to do that originally I was going to do 2 weeks before launch date, and then I backed it up to the 15th. So that meant almost 3 weeks, which at that point felt like a long time. It felt like it was forever away, even though it was only a few weeks. And looking back now, it's just wow, that time went by so quickly. But in the moment, it was taking forever. So literally right after I put it up for pre-order, because I was also in the middle of going back and forth with my cover designer. We still had not finalized the cover yet. So that was fun. But we got it all worked out. I do love my cover designer. But we were going back and forth with that. And I had just put it into the Amazon system to do its processing thing. And I was just I will count this as a win if I have one pre-order, because I'm a brand new name. It's even though I've been doing work, trying to get the word out through TikTok and Instagram to an extent at that point, as my pen name, I was you know what? I'm still a brand new name. Nobody knows who I am, despite me putting arcs out into the world, which I think at that point, maybe about 30 people signed up for my newsletter, most of whom had come through somehow from getting an advanced reader copy, which at that particular point, they had the way I was distributing the advanced reader copies, they had the option of signing up for my newsletter. It wasn't required, but they had the option. So I had about 30 people or so on my newsletter when I put the book up for pre-order. And I was already hearing good things, but I was just like, you know what? Still, greater world, one pre-order is a win. And within a few hours, I had that one pre-order. So from day one that I put it up for pre-order, I was counting it as a win because I needed to both temper my expectations as well as setting something that I could say, this is a success that I can be happy with. And my next level of success with that I didn't actually say to anyone was if I could match my number of pre-orders that I got on my last release under my previous pen name, which was 6. Still not a whole lot, but I was like, if I can match 6, where a number people knew me with that last release, and I got 6 pre-orders for that last release, but I was a known quantity at the very least at that point. So I was like, okay, so if I can match 6, I will be happy. Excuse me for a sec. Well, I think I got, excuse me. I got, let's say I had the one pre-order the first day, and then let me go look at my stats because I can see each in the reports that, excuse me. All right. So I had one pre-order on the 15th, which was the day I put it up for sale. I had a pre-order on the 16th, which was the next day. And then the third one I got was on the 19th. Okay, great. I'm like, all right, I got more than one pre-order, which is huge. And I knew 2 of the 3 people because they told me, and I appreciate that. But there was one person I didn't know. So I was like, okay, yay, somebody I don't know has pre-ordered this. Cool. And then on the 28th, which is this past Sunday, I was in a Wild University social kind of Zoom chat thingy that they have at the end of every month. And I mentioned that was my thing that was coming up because they had asked me to let them know and keep them updated because they also knew, like I've been sharing here, I've been sharing in there that this was a long-term goal project I've been working on. And I've got a tickle at the back of my throat, so I apologize. A little water, a little coughing. Hopefully that will take care of it. And so a couple of people, I'm assuming from that Zoom, pre-ordered Sunday night. So I had another 2. So I was up to 5. I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm happy. But man, I would love that 6th. I got that 6th one on the 31st. So Wednesday. And I was like, okay, great. I actually matched the number of pre-orders that I got on for my previous release. I was very, very happy camper at that point. Already happy camper because I got 1, but a very happy camper because I matched my previous release. So let me take down Halima's question for a moment. So here, I'm not going to grab it because it's in a pitcher that's a stoneware pitcher that's heavy. But there is live sunflowers over there. I received from the people who run Wild for Planners, Wild University. They sent me a bouquet of sunflowers on Thursday. And I'm still teary because that is just so incredibly kind. And I made a reel about it that I put up on my Crafting Ruby Dreams Instagram. And a lot of people, I think, who had not known or realized that I was writing and publishing a book, saw my reel and ended up pre-ordering. So by the time the book went live on Friday, early morning, I had 10 pre-orders. I was not expecting or even hoping for 10. So it's exceeded my expectations. I am just amazed and just in awe that the initial response from all of the ARC readers who have posted a review, put their ratings up, they've all been so supportive. Like I said, I know somebody out there is going to give it a 1 star. My only request, hope, whatever, is that it also says too much sex. I love the 1 star too much sex reviews because I know they sell books. So I'm just hoping that whoever gives it a 1 star just says too much sex. But honestly, I will say too that as much as I love and am so appreciative of all of the very supportive, positive reviews, I'm also looking forward to getting the quote unquote negative, not as supportive reviews, because that means it's getting out to a wide audience. And that's my hope, is that at some point it does get out to a wider audience that may not like it, because it's word of mouth is happening. But at the same time, I realize that might be a while, if ever. So, but the launch itself exceeded my expectations. And there's a lot of stuff that I can't control. I had no idea I was going to be getting these flowers and therefore make a reel about it that caused people to get interested and go ahead and pre-order. There's stuff that I did to the best of my ability, like TikTok. Let's talk about TikTok for a while. I have very purposefully made the decision to focus on building my newsletter and building TikTok for getting the word out about my books. I also do Instagram as Katie Lillig, in addition to all of my other personalities there. But my main focus is TikTok. Well, TikTok, it doesn't like serving up my videos that much. Anytime that it seems like, oh, this is what TikTok wants from me, so let me do a few more. It's like, I'll have like a high view, and that's why I think it actually wants that from me. And then it just goes down when I keep doing that thing over and over again. So it's just like, I haven't quite cracked, let's say, TikTok, but fairly reliably, it will serve out for me between 200 and 300 views. I do see accounts where the average number of views is below 100. So I do feel grateful. I don't want to say grateful to a tech company, but I'm appreciative that I am at least averaging somewhere in the 200 range. Thank you, Halima. Thank you. For those of you who aren't reading, she says, congratulations. It shows that various communities you are a part of have supported you. Yes, absolutely. And related to TikTok and just marketing in general, it's also showing that I'm putting myself out there because I am surprisingly not the best historically at promoting my own work. So in doing this channel and the Instagram account associated with it, I've gotten a lot better than where I was at under my previous pen name. So all of the work that I've done here, I think has helped me grow to learning the value and necessity of hyping myself to those in various communities and that I'm a part of in the outside world in general. Which is why I made the decision to take on TikTok. Because when I made that decision, and I think it's still true to an extent, it has an impact directly on book sales, whereas other social media channels, I think absolutely do have a direct impact on book sales, but it is not as, what's the word? Transparent to an extent. It's not visible is another word possibly, but with TikTok and BookTok in particular, you can generally see a very direct impact on sales, to the point that Barnes and Noble has seen a resurgence in print sales and have dedicated tables to books that theoretically are popular on BookTok. Sometimes you go to that table, which I don't actually have a Barnes and Noble near me, so I haven't seen this in person, just people's videos of they go to a BookTok table in Barnes and Noble, and it's either completely filled with Colleen Hoover, as if she is the only author on BookTok. And this is not a slight against her. It's just she's not the only author who is promoted on BookTok. Or it is books that you haven't actually ever seen on BookTok. So you wonder how they got on there. But yeah, so it's still a dedicated table space in Barnes and Noble. And other bookstores have taken note. So I think this is where actually the key on why the impact of BookTok on book sales is so more readily visible than the impact other platforms are not as visible, is because BookTok in particular is interested in print books. And so you'll have people coming in and saying, hey, I saw this book on BookTok. Can you tell me where I can go buy it? Like, where is it in your store? Or can you look it up for me? Or can you order it for me? Where you're not going to see that direct correlation as easily necessarily with ebooks. I absolutely, on Twitter, I know people who've said, I've bought a book because I saw somebody talking about it on Twitter. It's not that Twitter hasn't had an impact, but I don't think it has had as visible an impact. And almost, I can't think of the word I want. It has to do with like earthquakes and volcanoes and seismic. Like, I should know this. I actually took a class on seismology in college. So here, Halima, there are so many sides of BookTok. Absolutely. Song of Achilles is a great example. Yes, because that book had been out. And when I saw, anyway, it had been out for 10 years and then hit the New York Times due to BookTok. Also, so many indies are thriving due to it. Yes, exactly. I actually will say I'm pretty sure that Song of Achilles did hit the New York Times list prior to BookTok, like when it first came out, because I knew about, I had actually selected it for my library's collection back when it first came out. So it's like, I see it pop up again. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, I did this. So I was just like, what's going on here? But yes, it's like the resurgence of popularity of it. And since it hit BookTok, the continuous level. It wasn't I think prior to BookTok, when a book hit the zeitgeist on, like, say, Facebook or Twitter, it would like peak and then go down. Whereas books that have like truly hit it on BookTok, they hit and they kind of stay up. At the very least, they don't dip as deeply, as quickly as they would have and did on other social media platforms when they hit the zeitgeist through them. So I think that's another sign of the deeper impact BookTok has had on publishing. And so, yeah, so all of that are reasons why I decided to get involved in BookTok. Now, I took a course specifically for authors on BookTok and how to get involved in BookTok. That is run by, it's called, was it BookTok for Authors or something? I should know. I'm friends with Jane. Jane Ryland and Lila Dubois are the authors who run that particular course. I'm going to look this up right now just so I can figure it out and give you the actual name. I'm not sure if they are going to be offering it again, because it is a lot of work for them and takes away from their writing time, and TikTok sells books. There we go. But if they do offer it again, I found it very useful in having a deeper understanding of how the platform works and how to be involved. So my expectations of being on BookTok, like I said, I've had a couple of videos like get actually over 1,000 views, but I haven't had a true viral video ever. I'm okay with that. As long as I continue being involved in the BookTok community and commenting on other creators' videos, making connections, and paying attention to what's on there. And that's where I have chosen my expectations of being on BookTok, and hoping that have people who come across my videos and get interested in them. I've also I've expanded to Facebook a little bit in that I'm in a number of very targeted reader groups. And so I look for opportunities where available to do what's known as self-recommendations of my book. So I'm just trying to slowly support the word of mouth aspect of my book. And hopefully one day we'll see other people recommending my book as, hey, I'm looking for this. Oh, have you read Not So Runaway Bride? That's what I'm hoping to see one day. So there is that. But yeah, what I really want to do is get back to focusing on book 2 and getting that out to help support book 1, and then getting book 3 out to help support books 1 and 2. So because I'm at the start, and yes, there are people who can have debut books that just hit. I think I'm well positioned to have a very engaging book that entertains a lot of people, that will hopefully generate some word of mouth discussion, but it's not the total hit that it could have been, and not that I think it failed, because I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just I'm iterating. I'm in the process of iterating and slowly building. And so as long as I keep my expectations in check that way, I think I'll be doing very good. This is another great example from Halima. Do you see what is happening with Rebecca Yarros's The Fourth Wing? She hit the New York Times for the first time, and the book is literally sold out nationwide. I really want to study it more in terms of marketing. Yes. I have some thoughts because of who the publisher is and some things that have been shared with me with regards to other people's experiences with the publisher. That being said, I do think that the publisher did well by Rebecca in terms of the effort they put into the marketing of this book. So I would say it is and would be a very, very interesting case study for marketing purposes. So yeah, I would definitely take a look at it. I think that they were very smart in terms of which influencers they targeted for who was going to be most likely to have a positive reaction to the book. And I think it also was, timing wise, was a great hit with it being romantic fantasy, and that having a moment at this particular time. So I think there were a lot of things that were in favor to Rebecca for it to be a hit. And I think the other thing that I think is very interesting was the choice to publish it with sprayed edges for the first edition. So it is sold out. They're going back to print, but no other edition is going to have those sprayed edges. And sprayed edges is a currently popular effect for romantic fantasy and other books, especially printed books. Again, BookTok. So that whole aesthetic aspect of owning books. So I definitely think that there was a lot of very smart decisions that went into play with marketing this book. So definitely take a look at it if as something to investigate. Maven Lee, this is a great question. Especially in light of the previous question from Alima. I actually do not write romantic fantasy. I do enjoy reading some books that might be classified as romantic fantasy, but it's generally not a genre I lean towards reading. Not that I don't, sorry. It's not that I wouldn't ever read it. It's just not one of my initial preferred subgenres of romance. So because of that, I generally am not likely to write one. Also, I don't think my writing voice lends itself well to creating a really immersive, enjoyable reading experience for a romantic fantasy book. So, but thank you for asking that. Again, from Maven Lee, I feel like romantic fantasy romance has been having a longer than a moment. It's been a few years. Yeah. It's not a like moment. I just have a really, for me, deep history with romance and various movements of subgenres. So a few years is actually a small amount of time for me with my history of romance, which is why I said a moment. But yes, it has been a few years. Absolutely. You are not wrong. And this is this leads me into another tangent. I think it's also been really interesting. Like, I have been reading romance for 30 something years. So it has been interesting to me with and I've had conversations with author friends about this, let's say, generations of romance readers. And this actually has nothing to do with your actual age. Like, I am an older generation romance reader. I'm in my mid 40s, but because I've been reading romance for 30 plus years, I would call myself an older generation romance reader. You could be older than me and you just started reading romance a couple of years ago, and I would call you a younger generation romance reader. So it's very interesting how those different generations of readers interact. And honestly, sometimes I think of all the joy a lot of the newer readers have with finding older titles that may have been overlooked but are exactly what they're looking for. So, and it's also interesting to me to see what is of interest and what tickles a reader's, yes, I want to read this bone, as opposed to the funny bone. So things that in some ways were revolutionary when they first came out, such as Nalini Singh's Side Changeling series. That series first debuted in 2006. Now, it's not romantic fantasy because it's not fantasy. It's definitely more paranormal, almost urban fantasy. And she has another series that definitely rides the urban fantasy paranormal romance line. But how she really was able to ride the, at that point, growing wave of paranormal romance and not have it not be vampires, that was somewhat revolutionary at the time. Whereas she's now been published with that series for 17 years. So it's, but and it's also, like I said, it's not fantasy aspects. Still, it's definitely paranormal that I think a number of readers would enjoy. Though there's always the things that might be dated now from the early 2000s, decade 2000s. Thank you. So it's very interesting. But yeah, so it's something I routinely think about is how somebody came into the genre, what they find interesting. Hey, Carrie, I'll have to catch all I missed on the replay. Thank you. Just wanted to say hi and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I was not expecting this to be more than an hour, but it's like, I can't stop talking. But yeah, so if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments or comments about the romance genre. But yeah, so I kind of like fall, it's so easy to do when you have ADHD. It's like I fell off the train. Oh, here, great. Maven Lee. I've seen publishers moving away from urban paranormal and using contemporary fantasy instead to capture new readers, be more careful in community appeal. That's also a good point. I haven't exactly seen that, but thank you for bringing that up. But this is an excellent example of how you shift with what is the more the bigger touch point, let's say, for how you market, especially if you are trying to reach a new readership, which is very often the case. It's like when you have an influx of new readers, like you've had in the last few years, mainly due to the pandemic and lockdown and people looking for things to do and like, oh, hey, I guess I'll read this book that has been sitting on my pile for however long, or it's like, hey, I'll check out this thing, Kindle Unlimited, and oh, I like this. Oh, I really like this. And because you didn't really have a whole lot of time before, you got into that hobby essentially. And then you were like, nope, this is something I want to spend time doing. And the next thing you know, you have a wall. I have my couch behind me, but then you have a wall full of bookshelves that you had never contemplated having before. And you have a different vocabulary because of you're generally interacting with other newer readers. And so you are either creating your own vocabulary for how to talk about this thing that is new to you, or it's like you're kind of like shifting the definition of what you've heard because it's like, because what is being published today has shifted. So yeah, so it's like a responsive publisher, whether you're a traditional publisher or an indie publisher, a responsive publisher pays attention to how the market shifts and figuring out ways to either shift how you talk about what you are trying to market, or maybe you have to shift your product itself, which honestly might be both. And so, yeah, so that is a very good point. Thanks for bringing it up, Maven Lee. So yeah, the whole divergence of BookTok. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was just for anyone out there who might be interested. The other thing that I chose to focus on marketing wise was building my newsletter, because newsletters are something that I've like long been I wouldn't necessarily say a fan, but I believed in the power of newsletters. But I have also in the last few years have come to a deeper understanding of the power of newsletters and email marketing. So I made the choice to prioritize my time with building my newsletter and actually using my newsletter, as well as building my TikTok. As I said, the TikTok thing has shifted a little bit, but the newsletter hasn't. When I launched the book as of Friday, I had 40 subscribers to my newsletter, which to me is huge. How I did that was I made the ARCs available through a service called BookFunnel. Actually had another way of making ARCs available, but the first way was making them available through BookFunnel. And I very purposely made signing up for my newsletter an option at that point. I didn't want to require it because it was more important to me to make the advanced reader copies available. But I made the option of signing up for my newsletter available, and a number of people chose to join my newsletter, for which I am grateful. The other way I made ARCs available is that I signed up for a service called Hidden Gems. I found out about it at a conference last November from Anna Wong, who was speaking, and I signed up right then and there for a slot. And what I did with that was I made available a very specialized file for the advanced reader copy that directed to a link to get the bonus epilogue for the book. And it was required to sign up for my newsletter. But so because I wanted to track how many people came in that way. So since I wasn't the one actually distributing the advanced reader copy, it was Hidden Gems distributing it. I created this specialized file because I have the program. And so I was then able to track how many people came in. I used BookFunnel to distribute the bonus epilogue. And then I could track how many people came into the newsletter from that specific link. And then I also have specialized files for both the ebook and the print book that I can find out if people are coming in through Amazon or Kindle Unlimited. I can't distinguish between those who bought the book through Amazon or just got it through Kindle Unlimited. I can't separate that out, but I can see who came in through basically the ebook at this point. And then I also did a separate link for the print file. So I can see at this point so far, last I looked, nobody's come in through the ebook. And like I said, the print has just been made available today. And as far as I know, nobody has purchased it. Again, fine. But I will in the future be able to see who comes in that way. So that is how I'm choosing to build my newsletter. And Maven Lee, I signed up for author newsletters to get bonus material. I do too. It's like, it works on me, so I need to do this. So that is a strategic choice that I've made to focus on making bonus epilogues available, bonus material available in order to get people to sign up for my newsletter. So right now I'm focusing very specifically on bonus epilogues. I'm debating about how to do other things, but again, iterative business choices down the road. I don't have to do everything at once. But yes, I know it works because I've done it multiple times. Halima, great question. What app do you use for your newsletter? The service that I use is MailerLite. I currently have under 1,000 subscribers. And I'm also under the amount of newsletters that I send per month. So I do not have to pay, trying to save money as much as possible. And so, yeah. But I have a number of friends who use Flowdesk as their service provider. I have one friend who I think uses Constant Contact. I think that's the one she uses. But there are a number of services available. It just depends on what features you find that you need as an author or as a business that uses email marketing, and what your budget is for using that service or that type of service. So, yeah. But yeah, so those are, to me, I'm counting the growth of my newsletter as an absolute win. I was not expecting to have this many subscribers at this point in time. I would very much like to have at least 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, but we'll see how that goes. That honestly, I think is also really going to depend on me getting book 2 out when I absolutely need to. Here's another strategy thing. Speaking of book 2, and I have something else to share with regards to that. But I put book 2 up for pre-order on Thursday. So June 1st. I'd been hoping to have June 1st, 2024 release date for that. But Amazon is truly 365 days. So it's May 31st, 2024 is the current release date stated for book 2. I am fully expecting to be able to move forward that release date to, I don't know when. I'm not going to promise anything at this point. But Amazon, you can put up a pre-order for exactly 365 days out. So it is what I found in the last couple of years watching friends who choose to put up long pre-orders. It is better for them to put up the full year ahead, because of various life things that happen that can screw with your head and cause a delay. So I because of what had happened this year already, when I had fully expected to have book 2 already drafted by the time I released book 1, and I only have 4 chapters, I decided, even though I expect to not need that full year, I just went ahead and gave myself the space, because with Amazon, you can only push out a release date once and only by 1 month. So having watched friends go through the mental hell of being in burnout and trying to meet a release date when they have some very, very, very hard stuff going on in their life that they truly need to, that's where they need to be spending their energy. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself the space and lower the pressure threshold, the stress threshold, and give myself the full year. So book 2 is up for pre-order, and I already have 1 pre-order. That was even before book 1 released. The day I put it up for pre-order, I got it. Somebody pre-ordered it. So that's a win already. I'm amazed. Halima, do you ever do writing retreats, or just like go away to lock yourself up in an Airbnb hotel to binge write? This is another good question. I will say, since I live alone, I don't necessarily need to do this in order to get away from like the other people I'm living with. I will say that I have felt that need before, when I was living with my family during pandemic and I was really wanting to write. Living with others, I would probably, if that was the living situation I was in, I could absolutely see myself going away just to do some binge writing, or I want to focus my mental time and energy, even if it wasn't on writing, if it was just to clear out some admin projects that I just needed the focus time. Because I definitely, when I have other people around me, I don't want to focus on work. I want to focus on being with the people. So if my routine living situation was with other people, I could absolutely see myself doing this. This is also why I try to arrange my work time and my work expectations of myself to not include time where I know I'm going to be around people. So like I'm going to be home in July, early July, to spend time with my family. And I don't expect to do any real writing related tasks during that period, like maybe like some social media. But that's about it. It's if I'm writing at that point, I will take any writing time as a win. I will not like, I have to say I have to write an hour a day. That's a hard expectation of myself. So I'll say that. But I actually do have a writing retreat scheduled with friends. So that is scheduled for next January. And it will be my first small group writing retreat like this. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to being with the people that I will be with and seeing where it goes. So that is my history with writing retreats. And Halima, again, as somebody who has neurodivergence, I wonder if it helps too, so I don't get distracted by squirreling at home tasks, etc. This was the other thought that I had as I was answering that question, because I think that absolutely is a consideration. I have figured out ways to get myself to write in the space that I'm in. And sometimes I'll just change spaces. Like I have my office set up in my bedroom. And that tends to not actually be where I write. That's day job space and writing admin space for the most part. When I was writing book 1, I most often tended to leave that space, the bedroom office space, and move to the living room and sit in my recliner that's just over here and write on my laptop. So that was how I kind of switched things up. And because I have figured out how to get my brain to focus on writing in short bursts of time, I've figured out that hack, and that hack survived me going through years of burnout. I know I can rely on that for the most part. Haven't been able to rely on that recently, but for the most part, it's something that works with my brain. But if you find yourself routinely not being able to getting into a writing brain space, then I would suggest yes. And if you have the budget to do that, because again, I'm trying to watch my pennies, and renting a hotel room or an Airbnb, it's not in my budget currently. I'll just say that it's just not in my budget. But if it is in your budget, then it's absolutely something to explore. Something I did pre-pandemic, but I was in burnout, that I tried doing is going around to different spaces like the library or a cafe, to see if I could get that, hack my brain that way, because I was not in my house, especially with the place I was living in at the time, where I couldn't readily change spaces the way I can change spaces in this apartment, because it was a studio apartment. So even changing from my desk to my recliner, I was still in the same space. It didn't work. So going outside, even to a place with lots of people around, I just put in my earphones, earbuds, whatever I had at the time, that helped. So yeah, so I think that is definitely an option if it's within your budget, or even just doing something small, like going to a cafe, going to the library. If your local library has work rooms, office rooms that you can borrow, or study rooms for a space of time, do that. I know some people, at least used to, probably have gone back to. It is something I absolutely considered pre-pandemic, was joining a co-working space. If you have those in your community. It's kind of funny. I was walking around yesterday because I was meeting somebody for a kind of like informational interview thing for day job stuff. And then was out again later that night to go to take myself out to dinner to celebrate. But I walked past this one building both times because I was in the same general area. It was WeWork. I'm like, didn't you all fail? So apparently WeWork's still around in some places. But yeah, so if you want something that's more like office oriented, or depending on what the cost is, it might be an option. Mavenly, yes, a lot of co-working spaces in my area have closed. Yeah, it's like there's definitely not as many here in DC as there used to be, honestly, because a lot of people have moved to teleworking here in DC, since a lot of the workers here work for the federal government in some capacity. So yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how much is actually left, especially in smaller areas where if you only had one, and that was depending on what your community demand at that point. And there's a lot of really small communities that just never had them in the first place. So this is why I suggest your local public library might have a space for a study room. Though again, because I've been in those super, super, super small community libraries, I know that they are lucky even just to have the space, with the one space with all of the books in it. So I believe me, I am fully aware of those super small public libraries, super small communities that are lucky to have a public library, because I've been in them and I've worked with them. So yeah. All right. Oh, we've been doing this for an hour and a half. We've had a lot of divergent conversations. I'm actually going to, I need to get going because I have some stuff to do, but I just want a reminder call out of a couple of things. So please remember, if you're at all interested, MäksēLife has both lined and dot grid notebooks, pack of 8, rainbow colored A5 size. And during June, $10 from each set is being donated by MäksēLife to the Trevor Project. So very, very good organization to support. HB90 registration for the Q3 Bootcamp opens tomorrow, June 4th. Bootcamp itself starts June 18th. And I have a book for sale. If you like small town contemporary romance, grumpy sunshine, found family, supportive female friendships, super cute dogs, open door smexy times. It's, as one of the reviewers has said, it's not slow burn, but it is definitely there. So yeah, so I thank you for all your support. I will put links to everything in the description below. At the very least, with MäksēLife and the Trevor Project, if you don't need the notebooks, I hope you would consider donating to the Trevor Project or another LGBTQIA+ support organization in your community. Particularly this month, since it is Pride Month, but also all year round, they can always use the support. So yeah, thank you so much for being here today, and may all your dreams be ruby dreams. Have a great rest of the weekend. Bye-bye. And broadcast.